Shalom. All praise to the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakudash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders of Great Millstone, who rule well. Peace and salutation, brother. Hopefully, let pushing this word and truth and sincerity. Alright, this video here is Israel, the Prodigal Son. Okay. So you hear about that story, the Prodigal Son, quite a bit. And I went to, decided to go and read it. And as I was reading it, I was like, man, you know what? This is talking about Israel. Israel is that prodigal son. All right, we are their prodigal son. Okay? So I'm just going to go through this here and just show you how Israel is that prodigal son. All right? First thing, I want to get the definition of prodigal.
Prodigal.
Okay. The word prodigal, it says spending money or resources freely and recklessly, wastefully, extravagant. Prodigal habits die hard. Having or giving something on a lavish scale. Okay. A person who spends money in a recklessly extravagant way. So that's what our people did, because you got to think about it. We were the chosen line from Adam all the way on down to now. Israel is that chosen line. But the thing is, to be of that chosen line, there's a certain standard that we are held to in the world, that the other nations are not held to. Okay. But we wanted, to be like, our people wanted to be like the other nations, to be as brute beasts, without order, without law, to be reckless. And so thus, we became prodigal. All right. So let's get that here. This is Luke chapter 15, verse 11. And he said, a certain man had 2 sons. All right. Verse 12. And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. Okay. So the younger son wanted his portion right then. Okay. So he had 2 sons. All right. We know that Isaac had Israel and Esau, or Jacob and Esau. Okay. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Esau. Okay. And Esau was that elder son, or the older son, and Jacob was the younger of the 2. Okay. And so thus Jacob is the younger, and we wanted to get our portion of the goods that falleth unto us. Okay. And so what is that portion that fell unto that younger son? All right, let's get it. All right, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 7, verse 10. And I said, it is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, even so also is Israel's portion, because for their sakes I made the world. And when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. Okay, so the world was made for Israel's sakes. So Israel's portion, or Jacob's portion, is the world. Everything was promised to Jacob. Okay. So the world belongs to Jacob. The world is Jacob's portion. This is Second Ezra chapter 6, verse 57. And now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which hath ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us, and to devour us. But we, thy people, chosen, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, chosen, the inheritance goes to the firstborn, thy only begotten and thy fervent lover are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, Israel's sake, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? Okay. So the inheritance, the world, is the portion of Israel. That's the portion of the younger son. All right. And so what is it? And this is also show you I want to go back there real quick. Verse 58 says, but we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn. Now we know that Esau was actually born first, but Israel is called the firstborn, the only begotten. Why? Because that's who the inheritance belongs to. Because the inheritance is the right of the firstborn. All right. And that's the younger son, and it's the prodigal son. This is Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 15. If a man have two wives, and one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make it the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he hath, for he is the beginning of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his. So the right of the firstborn, the beginning of the strength, the first one that came out of the first male that came out of your loins. That is the right of the firstborn. They get a double portion. And so thus the world is given as the inheritance of the firstborn, which is Israel. Okay. Or that second son. Okay. Let's go back to Luke. Luke 15 and 12. And the younger of them said to his father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. So the younger son was ready to get his portion, which is Jacob or Israel, their prodigal son. And he divided unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. Okay. So he said he wasted his substance. So he wasted all that he had with riotous living. Let's get that word riotous there. It's the Greek word asotos, which says dissolutely or profligately. Let's look at what profligately means. Wildly, extravagant, very wasteful, abandoned to vice or corruption, shamelessly immoral. Did not we just get that with prodigal? Excessively. Okay. So this is why he's called the prodigal son, because he was riotous. Okay. All right, let's see. It's Proverbs chapter 29, verse 3. Whoso loveth wisdom rejoiceth his father, but he that keepeth company with harlots spendeth his substance. Okay, and that harlots is not only just not only women, but these other philosophies. Okay, and that's one thing we did as Israelites. You know, we kept company with many harlots. We played the whore with. We had many lovers. We always was going after all these other gods. Okay. We always was living life on the edge, one life to live, riotous, excessively, just spinning everything up. Okay? This is Proverbs 6, verse 26. For by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. All right? So you're going to be brought to they basically nothing by the means of a whorish woman. All right, you keep on going out in the world and being riotous and being prodigal. You're gonna be brought to nothing. All right. This is Proverbs chapter 18, verse 9. He also that is slothful in his work is brother to him that is a great waster. Okay? See, the thing is, this work requires, it requires your attention. It requires your focus. You see, that's why we be so focused on this work and focused on this word. We could easily be prodigal and riotous, living it up, trying to indulge in this life, feeding the flesh. But what is it going to get us? It's going to get us waste. You're going to waste this time, okay? You're going to waste these riches because we've been given this inheritance and we can't waste it, especially on this world, because this world ain't got nothing to offer anyway. All right, this is Proverbs 21 and 17. He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. All right. If you spend all your times in pleasure and feeding unto the flesh, you're going to be poor. You're going to spend it all up. You're going to waste it. All right. Let's get back here. I'm reading this one more again. Luke 15:13. And not many days after the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. That riotous living gonna mess you up. This is Proverbs chapter 23, verse 19. Hear thou, my son, and be wise, and guide thine heart in the way. Be not among winebibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh. Don't be among riotous people. Don't surround yourself with them. For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. Hearken unto thy father that begat thee, and despise not thy mother when she is old. All right. So don't be among winebibbers. Don't be among riotous eaters of flesh. Basically, don't be among those YOLO people. You only live once. Live life to the fullest. What you doing? Why you so focused on that, man? You let life pass you by. This ain't nothing to let pass you by. There's nothing really here for you. Ain't nothing out there for you. Literally. It's Proverbs 28, verse 7. Whoso keepeth the law is a wise son. Think about it. That law is one thing that brings you wisdom. Okay? It teaches you how to maneuver through life. It teaches you how to handle certain situations. All right? And what does this world teach you? To break the law. That there is no law. The law has been done away with. So thus they are unwise. All right? Whoso keepeth the law is a wise son, but he that is a companion of riotous men shameth his father. This is why he said don't keep company with riotous men, because you're going to end up just spinning everything up. All right. Verse 14. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to want. Meaning he was brought to nothing, and he needed. He began to want. He had it all, and he lost it all. Now he has to go and beg. Now he has to go and ask. Okay? Proverbs 21:20. There is a treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. Did not the second son have the treasure of his father, of his inheritance? But he was foolish and spent it up, and began to want. Matter of fact, that's why it says, and when he had spent it all. Why? Because he was foolish. Because he began hanging around riotous people. There arose a mighty famine in the land, that he began to be in want. All right, verse 15. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. Okay. And when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger. All right. So it says, verse 16, and he would fain have filled his belly with the husk. Oh, Salakia, I want to go back to 15. Salakia. Verse 15 says, and he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. All right. So when he joined himself unto a citizen of that country, got to remember, he was rich. He had lots of treasures, and now he came to want. He came to nothing. So he was brought low. He was humble, and he was just okay with being in the lower class and being low. And it said he sent him into the fields to feed swine. So whereas he was he had riches, and now he had to go out and get a job. He had to go and feed swine. And let's see, this is where so when you go to verse 16, it says, and he would fain have filled his belly with the husks that the swine did eat, and no man gave to him. Okay, so he had the desire to fill his belly with that. The husks is basically lower class food. All right, so he was brought to, like I said, a low. He would have been okay being with eating that lower class food, and because his pride wouldn't let him go home and say, hey man, I lost everything. And it says he joined himself to a citizen. He took on them customs, he took on them ways, and of those that lived there. And that's what our people did. When we joined ourselves unto these heathen, and we prided ourselves, and then we were brought so low that we're eating the lowest of the low of foods in the earth. All right. We brought so low that we think that lobster and crawfish and shrimp and crab, we think that those so-called delicacies are good eating, are good living. Meaning you got money, you high class when you eat that kind of stuff. Not knowing we're eating the bottom feeders of the earth. That's lower class food. That's how backwards we really are. Okay. Then verse 17 says, and when he came to himself, that means that when he remembered who he was or who he came from, he remembered his father. He said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger. Okay. So now he began to remember himself remember his father, remember who he was, remember who he came from, and how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare. So he's looking at it, and he be like, man, the servants in my father's house, not only do they eat, but they have leftovers. They got much more. They have more than what they need. And he said, and I perish with hunger. So he's like, man, I'm out here starving. I'm working hard and about to, I'm dying. But so here, this is where, like I said, he began to remember himself. And this is one thing that we did. It said that he joined himself unto a citizen of that land, and he began to eat the lower class food. Okay? Same thing we did. We joined ourselves unto the heathens, began to take part in their customs, be in the low class, and be okay with it. But in the land of our captivities, we remember ourselves. This is Baruch chapter 2, verse 30. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, that's Israel. But in the land of their captivities, as we were scattered all across the earth, they shall remember themselves. And that's what this son did. When he came to himself, meaning when he remembered himself, then he thought about his father. All right. Verse 18 says, I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee. What does that sound like? Repentance. That's all Yahweh Shemashah wants us to do, is to turn back like this man did. He turned back to his father. He came back and repented and confessed his sins. He said, for I have sinned against heaven and before thee. Okay? So check this out. It's 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. If my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves, that's the first step to repenting, is come down off your pride and humble yourself. Once you do that, then you can turn back to them and follow Yahweh Shemashah. Alright? If my people shall humble themselves, which are called by name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face, did not this son just come and seek his father's face? And turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Alright? And that's what the father wanted to do. Alright, verse 19. And am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. See, he was like, man, I'm not even worthy to be your son. For all I did, I took everything I had and I went and spent it up and foolishly. Okay? He went and did everything foolishly. I'm not even worthy to be called your son. Alright? It's Hosea chapter 1, verse 9. Then said the Most High, call his name Lo-Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your power. Okay? But check this out. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, and so we're in Babylon the Great, we are not his people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power. Okay? This is coming back to Yahweh Shemashah. We weren't even worthy enough to be called the sons of the power, or the prince of the power anymore. This is Jeremiah chapter 2. Is it Jeremiah? Yep. Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 12. It says, be astonished, O ye heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid, be ye very desolate, saith the Most High Yahweh. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out his cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water. Is Israel a servant? Did not he say here, make me as one of thy hired servants? Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? See that? But verse 20 says, and he arose and came to his father, but when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But check this out. All right, this is Ephesians chapter 2, verse 11. It says, wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision, by that which is called the circumcision, in the flesh made by hands, that at that time ye were without Hamashiach, being aliens. We were strangers from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope, and without the Most High in the world. Okay, so as long as this son was out there, he had no hope. As long as he was out there living riotously and prodigally, he had no hope. But that's why he had to come back to his father's house. Same thing with Israel. As long as we were out in the world amongst these heathen nations, taking on their customs, doing the things that they do, we had no hope, because our hope is in Yahweh Shai. All right. Verse 22, it says, but the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his head and shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. Okay, why was the father doing this? If you go up, verse 7, Luke 15:7, I say unto you that likewise joy shall be in heaven over one sinner that repenteth, more than over 99 just persons which need no repentance. All right, that's how happy. That's why he called everybody, made a feast, because that one, his son returned. That one son. Okay. And it's the same thing with us. There's joy when the elect turn to him. It's Proverbs 21:16. The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. And what is that congregation of the dead? Okay? What is it? Having no understanding, not having this word. Being out in the world, you have no covering. You're naked. So thus you're in the congregation of the dead, you have no light. You are literally dead. This is Ephesians chapter 1, verse 3. Blessed be the Most High and Father of our Adawan, or our Lord, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, who hath blessed us with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Mashiach, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Yahushua Mashiach to himself, according to the good pleasure. Okay, he was adopting. He was his son back. He lost his son, and he was bringing him back unto himself. Okay. Verse 27. And he said unto him, Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fatted calf, because he received him safe and sound. And he was angry, and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. See, now the jealousy came over his brother. Why? Verse 29 says, And he answered and said to his father, Lo, these many years do I serve thee, neither transgress I at any time thy commandment. And yet thou never gavest me a kid, that I might make merry with my friends. But as soon as thy son was come, which have devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed for him the fatted calf. So now you got that jealousy on him. Why is that? Check this out. It's that Esau spirit there. Ezekiel chapter 35 verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred. Never ended. He couldn't even go in the house with them. And that was his brother. He was like, man, I don't care nothing about him. Because I've been here this whole time, and he been gone. And he gets a party when he gets a feast when we get back. And I don't get anything. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh Shem Shai, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Okay? He had that perpetual hatred at this point. But check this out though. Verse 31. And he said unto him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. It was meet that we should make merry and be glad, for this thy brother was dead. I just read you, he was in the congregation of the dead, and is alive again, and was lost and is found. Okay? So he let him know. He said, you'll ever be with me. So what does that mean? Meaning that you're gonna be blessed. You know, you're gonna have your portion. You got your portion too. And what was this portion? Genesis 27, verse 36. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times, and he took away my birthright. And behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And I bet you that's how that older son felt. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given him or to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of the heaven from above. So he's giving him a blessing. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Okay. Verse 41, check this out. And Esau hated Jacob, because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And that elder son, he hated that younger son because of that. Wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother. So you see where it says Esau hated Jacob. But check this out. It's Malachi chapter 1 verse 2. I'm just getting straight to the point. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage to waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Okay? And he says, let's see. And I want to finish off here. So why did their father feel that way about their son? About his younger son? This is why. It is Romans chapter 9 verse 12. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with the Most High? Yahweh forbid. For he saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Alright? So he wanted to have mercy and compassion on their younger son. Why? Because he wanted to. So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of the Most High Yahweh that showeth mercy. Alright? So mercy was shown unto that prodigal son, or mercy was shown unto Israel, because Israel was that chosen one. All right. And Esau was put by. He was laid to the side. He was rejected. Okay. So the prodigal son is Israel. All right. So call all Yahweh Bashim Al Shai Bashim Makakodash. Hope you edified. Shalom.